like I kind of mentioned the digital passports there, the vaccine passports, and it's something I've been like really wrestling with, like whether I think it's a bad idea or a really bad idea. I can't like no, you're laughing, but like I can't envisage a scenario in which that is a good idea. And like, do you think that that's like a realistic possibility in the UK?
It could well be. I mean, the government is saying that it's opposed to mandatory vaccination, but if you can't go to the pub or you can't go to a restaurant, you're restricted from going to certain places. If you don't have a vaccine, then of course, well, it is effectively mandatory vaccination, isn't it? And as far as going on holiday is concerned, well, someone like me, that's 50 years old, it was just my 50th birthday last week. I'm likely to get vaccinated by the end of this month. Hooray! That's great. My wife is 42. She's going to have to wait a little bit longer. I have a 4-year-old son and I have a 21-year-old stepson. They're not going to get vaccinated anytime soon. So it's all right for someone my age. I can just jump on a plane and go somewhere. Fantastic, I got the vaccine. But you, Josh, you're going to have to wait a bit longer, aren't you? And you may not be able to go jump on a plane. So let's be perfectly honest. These lockdowns have affected the young and the old badly. The old have been locked away, feeling very lonely. The young have just had their education taken away, their university days taken away. They can't mix with their friends, and they're getting very anxious as well. I mean, I've been suffering from a bit of anxiety these past few months, and I was trying to work out what was causing it. And it's because I'm not in control of my life anymore. I can't decide what I want to do when I want to do it. And I think it is really, really bad idea to effectively discriminate against younger people who have borne the brunt of this, along with the elderly, and say, well, you can't go on holiday, or you can't go out, you can't do that. I mean, I think there'd be a huge backlash.
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna pay for it, like me and my generation.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, people of my age, I'm going to pay this back.
Yeah.
I'll be retired in about 15 years or so. I'll be on my meager pension by then. I'm not going to pay this back.
Retiring in 15 years. No.
Well, 15 to 20. I don't know when I'll retire. Perfectly honest, I've got a feeling, because I enjoy work so much, that I doubt I'll ever will properly retire. But even then, the government probably would have put the retirement age to about 70 back then. So goodness knows when. But now, my 4-year-old son, he'll be paying it back.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you mentioned something there that really like struck me. It's the control aspect, and like this is something that I've really been struggling with as well, like myself. And sometimes when I say this, it sounds so like first world problems. It's like, oh, I can't jet off to the Maldives, or that's what it sounds like. But it's not just that. It's like I'm attempting to plan like the next 6 to 9 months of my life, and it's really difficult when I don't know what's happening next week. Like, yeah. I can't tell if I want to stay in Belfast or I want to move to a different city, because I don't know what the prospects are going to be like next week, 1 month from now, 2 months from now. I don't want to like move to London, which was like my long-term plan yet, because I don't want to pay London's rent for nothing being open. The reason that I would pay that rent is to, have access to the city. Which being closed, wouldn't make much sense. Like a friend of mine's in the same situation, except he's already got the job and has been working remotely for like months. It's really the inability to plan, I think, is having like a serious effect on mental health. Like there was a study done, and it was in the Irish Times, from the Republic of Ireland, where they were estimating something like 2/3 of adults were like suffering mental health problems because of this. And like, that's a stunning amount of people. Why do you think that's been discounted as something that we should be concerned about?
I honestly don't know, because it's obviously something that we should be concerned about. I mean, I give you an example. For the last 10 years, I have never worked on a daily basis in an office with other people. I've been used to working from home. I've got my office here, a couple of miles away from my home. My wife pops in for 2 half days a week. She does admin for the association. and that's basically the company that I get. So I'm perfectly used to working in a sort of isolated way. So when the lockdown first started, my life didn't really change very much, other than the fact that I couldn't go out and do what I wanted to do, of course. But when the second lockdown started in November, that's when I started to feel a little bit anxious. Now, bear in mind, I've been driving for the best part of 30 years, and I was driving along in the car, and there was a time when I thought, I don't think I feel safe here. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. And it's very hard to explain, but I just didn't feel quite right. And I told my wife, and she said, I think maybe you should see the doctor. And I did. And to cut a long story short, the GP prescribed me what she said were just a mild antidepressant to try and take the edge off the anxiety. And that's why I said earlier, I was trying to work out why I was anxious. It's anxious because I'm just not in control. And I think that's what people are thinking of. We know that there's a huge mental health problem. My GP thinks I'll just bounce back straight away once we get our freedoms back. And I sincerely hope so. And I probably will. But there are others who are going to have real long-term problems. And yet the government just doesn't seem interested. I mean, it's been the governments of successive governments in this country have been promising to try and fund mental health services better. And nobody ever really sees any evidence of it. And they're going to have a real problem once we do eventually get out of all of these restrictions. They're not taking it seriously. I don't think the funding will be there. I think it should be there. But why do they not take it so seriously? Well, they keep saying that they do, but they don't.
I mean, I got really, really mad when I was watching one of the press conferences. I guess it would have been a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. And anyway, someone asked a question of Boris, and it was essentially what are you going to do about the mental health problems, especially for young people who are a generation that have already got severely elevated levels of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, things like that. And his response was that, okay, we're going to bring in a mental health officer or spokesperson to stand here with me in the press conferences. And I was just like, fuck you, man. Seriously. Yeah. The fact that you think that is an appropriate response, the fact that you're well, there's that kid that's sitting at home, 17 years old, suicidal, or that 21-year-old who, dropped out of uni because they couldn't see anyone and they're, in a hole of depression but I am sure that they will be just enamored, over the moon. They will be jumping for joy that you have provided a mental health officer at your press conferences. Thank you, Boris.
Words fail you, don't they? I mean, words do genuinely fail you. It's like when Boris says that I understand this, and he says this. He doesn't say. He doesn't try to say, well, it must be difficult if you're homeschooling or whatever. He said, I understand the difficulty parents are going through. And I think I just shout at the television, no, you bloody well don't, Boris. You don't have a clue. You haven't raised your children particularly. It's been your wife or your girlfriends or however many children he's got. But, it hasn't been you that's been raising your children all over these years. You haven't never had to homeschool a child. You actually don't have a damn clue what it's like for people. And it's the same with the mental health. It doesn't have a clue. You're right. I mean, putting a mental health officer in, an ex-press conference, well, obviously that will just wave that magic wand, as you said. I mean, it'll just solve all the problems for everybody. I mean, it's how would Boris describe it? A pyramid of piffle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting quite sick of his metaphors. It's this is another arrow in our quiver to fight COVID. And you just go, who is writing this trash?
Him. Believe me, he doesn't get a speechwriter to do that. He writes it.
That's a really fair point. It is probably him. That's one of the things that set him apart from politicians. I remember Tim Shipman actually writing about that. I think it was in Fallout. I can see very nicely behind me in the camera. But why do you think that the because the response when I've seen a lot of people bring up this kind of argument from Sir Charles Walker, who I sincerely wish we had as Prime Minister. I never thought I would wish for a Tory as Prime Minister. There you go. That's something that the pandemic has brought me. Or for example, we've had, I don't know if you're familiar with Sammy Wilson. He's a Northern Irish MP who is.
I know Sammy. Yeah, I know Sammy.
Famous for being a big supporter of science and he's a climate denier who believes the world is 6,000 years old. And but anyway, he has made the argument about about mental health and about problems for the economy once things open up again. Like we haven't really seen the damage that the economic crash has caused, and we're causing all this damage and not taking it into account. And often the argument is that, oh, these people don't care. They just saying that we should be worried about mental health because it like backs up their agenda. And what have you heard people making this argument, and what have you made of it?
Well, I'm going to go back to Sammy. I mean, Sammy is an economist. He was a former economics lecturer, I believe. I don't know if it was at a university or at a further education college. I mean, Sammy knows what he's talking about when it comes to economics, and I have been impressed with him speaking of for mental health. As you say, Sir Charles Walker has been absolutely brilliant. I mean, some of his speeches have been, so passionate. You can tell that he really, really cares about the issue. And now I've gone and forgotten what your question was. So could you ask me it again, please?
What are your thoughts on this response that it's like, oh, you don't care? You just want to make this point because it backs up your agenda. Like, where were you when we were saying about mental health 18 months ago?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they want to be seen. I mean, many politicians want to be seen to be caring about this. But, the House of Commons regularly has debates, and they have it in Westminster Hall as well on mental health issues. And I think you can sort of work out who's just sort of contributing to the debate because they want to see themselves doing it, for their constituents, so the constituents can actually see them speaking out. And you can see that those who actually have struggled over the years or those who are just passionately interested in the subject. I can usually work out when someone's faking it and when someone's genuine. But of course, there are some people who jump on any bandwagon going, don't they, to try and keep themselves in the media spotlight and to keep their seats.
So you say you can tell who's faking it and who's genuine, right? What about? Let me go through a few. What about?
Oh, God, here we go.
Okay, what about Rees-Mogg? Is he faking it or is he genuine?
I think I don't know Jacob very well, but I've had many a conversation with him over the years. Jacob is a genuine guy. You like him or not. I don't agree with him on everything, but I think Jacob is a very sincere man. Okay. And when he says something in public, he tends to say it in private as well. So I don't see any duplicitous nature there, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why he's probably gone into trouble a little bit with some of the gaffes, because he's sometimes a little bit too honest for a politician.
What about Matt Hancock?
Matt Hancock, I don't know what to make of Matt Hancock. I mean, he's a little sort of Duracell bunny, isn't he? That was his sort of little nickname. All of that crying on the TV. Well, it could be a bit of relief that he's, something's going well for him. I don't honestly know, because let's be honest, until the vaccine were like, it wasn't exactly going particularly well for Matt Hancock, was it? No,
it wasn't. I mean, I immediately put him in for the Oscar nomination after seeing that little performance. Or would it be a BAFTA since it's on TV?
It would. Yes, it would have to be a BAFTA. Yes, or what do they have in there? They have Golden Globes and Emmys, don't they, in America?
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or sign up to our mailing list. Thanks a lot to our sponsor, ExpressVPN, the #1 most trusted VPN. Get lightning fast connectivity with servers in 160 locations across 94 countries. Keep your browsing privacy safe with ExpressVPN and get a 35% discount on 12 months of ExpressVPN when you follow the link in the description below. Don't forget my book is now out and available to order on Amazon and on bookshop.org. That's Brexit, the Establishment Civil War. And most importantly, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.